Business Brain, episode 660 for Wednesday, June 25th, Global Beatles Day 2025. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Business Brain, the show where we digest and analyze and tweak and go through ideas so that we can all keep on living charmed lives together and individually. We go through the ideas together. We live our charmed lives individually and together. Our sponsors for this episode include Eversite.com/BB, where you can get your gorgeous pro-managed website without the stress. And OpenPhone.com/businessbrain, where you can go to get 20% off your first 6 months of the #1 business phone system that'll streamline and scale your customer communications. We'll talk more about both of those in a little bit. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And back in Lafayette, California, I'm Shannon Jean. How are you, man?
I'm good. I love Global Beatles Day. It's Beatles are one of my favorite bands.
Insects or
no, the bands, the bands.
Yes,
the band, not the bands.
Yeah,
there was just the one band called the Beatles.
Important. Yeah,
both
band
are important,
and the bug. Very, very important. We'd be in big trouble without. Without either one of them. So
that's true.
But hey, I want to talk a little bit about. We had some sad news over the weekend. Fred Smith, the founder of FedEx, and really arguably the inventor of overnight shipping, freight, overnight, documents, this kind of thing, and at least into a feasible business with FedEx, the founder of FedEx, and very interesting guy. I got to meet him a couple of times at FedEx events. Super humble, normal dude. There's a famous story that they were out of money and he took all the cash they had left and went to Vegas. He was. Right? A friend of mine works for FedEx and has shared a lot of stories about FedEx. But it was Fred Smith was on his way back to Memphis, connecting through Chicago, Memphis, where their headquarters were, and the company was out of money. He was heading back to Memphis to let everybody go and shut it down. And he's like, I don't want to go to Memphis and do that. And so he looked at the board and he's like, where can I go instead? And he saw Vegas. And so he went and put it on the blackjack, I guess. Yeah. It was how the story went, and won like $27,000 and went back and made payroll and kept it going, and here they are now. Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. It's a gamble. And
that's it, literally. Yeah.
It's a gamble. And so many of my businesses relied we rode the overnight services wave, if you will.
Yep.
And started with laptops. And when I read about it this weekend, I thought back, and I can remember sitting in our conference room and having a conversation with FedEx reps that we had. And I said, hey, why can't we put one of our laptop repair pickup boxes? These were like 12 by 16 box with foam inside.
Sure.
So why can't we put one of those in every FedEx truck in the country? And they looked at me like, you're nuts. You're nuts. And so I just kept making that statement every time I talked with them.
Yeah.
And FedEx didn't. We never.
I was going to say it never happened with FedEx, did it? No,
it did not. But it did happen with DHL.
Right.
And it was timing, because DHL, they had purchased Airborne Express to be their U.S. because DHL is owned by the German post office, right? Deutsche Post, and. So they wanted to break in domestically, Airborne Express, which is also, I think, Courier or something like that up in Canada.
Okay.
And so they bought DHL, bought Courier,
Airborne Express.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Keep me on track. And they had this plan. And as we were meeting with them because they wanted some of our business, they were doing our international business. They said, hey, we're going to have this domestic stuff. And they said, look, we're going to do this rollout where we're going to bring all the express vehicles, vans into a painting facility over the weekend. And we're going to paint, they're all white. We're going to paint them all the DHL yellow over a 2-day period. So on Friday, they're going in, on Monday, we're going to make this big splash. And so I made this comment. I said, hey, why can't I have our laptop repair box in every van, every DHL van. And they were like, well, that's a lot of boxes. I was like, well, how many boxes is it? Well, it really surprised me. It wasn't, I mean, it was thousands of boxes, but they're not that crazy expensive. And I was like, wouldn't that be a great time to roll out something like that you can get a lot of press with and publicity, that, you can do same day pickup for any laptop? We were in the Apple space. So at the time, I think it was PowerBooks. Maybe it wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't
MacBooks. It was definitely PowerBooks. I remember when you did this. Yeah.
And so we were Mac Rescue. We started PowerBook Rescue. We were already in business, but we wanted to do this overnight, business. And so we worked with DHL, and it was, if you called us by 2 p.m. Your time, we could pick up your laptop overnight and bring it into our repair facility, fix it, and send it back out overnight, back to you. And it was before the Apple Store. It was there was not as many. The
infrastructure. You were part of building that infrastructure. It just didn't exist yet.
Yeah, and that question, after I decided that, look, okay, it's not a question anymore. It's like, we are going to put a laptop box in an overnight freight company's vehicles. I don't know which one it's going to be.
Yeah,
we're gonna do it. And I just kept bringing it up, meeting with these guys and going out to events. And DHL, to their credit, they stepped up. They were a disaster in many other ways.
Yes. It makes sense that, like, a DHL, they were in a position, they were hungry. Exactly.
They were hungry.
Exactly.
Yeah, FedEx and UPS looked at me like I was crazy.
Yeah.
I tried to get into FedEx because they bought Kinko's at the time, which became FedEx Office.
Yep.
And that was hey, I want a box in every, FedEx Office location in the country, so anybody go. And we did get that worked out because I didn't have to buy the box; they were already there.
Yeah, it's just dropping it off.
Worked out pretty well because it's, when you get told no, you just got to keep asking. If you think it's going to work and going to try it, and it changed my life. It changed my entire business, and it made us national on a repair level.
Right.
Excuse me. It instantly moved us to a nationwide company. And then we took that same model and we did it for a bunch of other products, some of which worked out great, others not so much.
Sure.
But we just kept adjusting the model, changing the boxes, how we would do it, picking up, and, whether eventually it was iPads and, we did some phones, but phones turned out to be just too personal. You couldn't be without them.
Yeah. That's tough.
So it was a very different experience, but we learned, real quick that was still a local business. But anyway, keep asking questions. Don't take no for an answer, and decide that it's going to happen, and things change.
I think even though you didn't do that particular deal with Fred Smith, I think he would have agreed with everything you just said about, keep asking questions. Don't take no for an answer, especially don't take no for an answer.
Yeah, exactly.
based on what I know about Fred Smith. He was always very. He remained the same guy that was the scrappy, business startup guy. He just was that all the way through. Even when he grew to a point where
he remembered, like I went to they invited us to FedEx Orange Bowl, and at their event, he came up, met me, and he knew about our business, and I was like, wow, obviously they prepped him. Hey, this is this person. Of course. But I totally respected it. Maybe looked very, very important in front of my wife, which is always a plus.
That's great.
And he was like, how's the laptop business and what's going on and what's the next thing for you? And I talked to him for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, of course.
But it was amazing and it was great. And it made me feel unique and special. And that's a great thing for a leader to be able to do.
There's a lot of lessons there. I bet we could dissect a lot of things Fred Smith did and laugh at some and learn from all of them. So
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we'll do that at some point. The next thing that I want to do is talk about our sponsors. Because, have you ever tried juggling flaming batons while answering client calls and typing emails with your feet? Yeah, me neither. But running a business without our sponsor, OpenPhone, might feel just about that chaotic. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system that keeps you connected without turning you into a 24/7 call zombie. It runs through an app on your phone or computer, so you don't need to carry 2 phones, or worse, share your personal number with that client who sends 2 a.m. texts about font choices. And the real magic? Your whole team can share one number and collaborate like it's a group chat, with call and text history, so nobody drops the ball. Plus, their AI agent answers after hours, handles questions, and captures leads while you sip tea and lead your charmed life. Whether you're solo or scaling up, OpenPhone is the business line built for builders. And OpenPhone is offering our listeners of Business Brain 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/businessbrain. That's openphone.com/businessbrain. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. Keep living that charmed life. And our thanks to OpenPhone for sponsoring this episode. And now let's talk websites, because if your business website is still rocking that 2012 vibe with spinning GIFs and Comic Sans, it's time for an intervention. And Eversite, our sponsor, is your always on-call web team for just $3.99 a month. That's it. No $10K setup fee, no long-term contract, just reliable humans who pick up the phone, reply to your texts, and yes, will rescue you when your ancient WordPress site gets hacked by a 14-year-old with a hoodie and a Red Bull. These folks build your new site and proactively manage it so you can spend your brain power where it matters, on growth, not glitchy plugins. Think of Eversite as the secret weapon in your back pocket, right next to your emergency chocolate, of course. They're already managing hundreds of business sites, and they'll treat yours like it's the homepage of the moon landing. In fact, Shannon, your site is one of those that they are managing now, right?
Yeah, after it was hacked by a 14-year-old in a hoodie.
That's right. Yes.
It was a disaster on a weekend, and I reached out to them, and it was like super fast. Temporary splash pages, because they're like, well, we can't build the site for you, obviously, overnight. Splash pages, put redirects in place, because that was a big part, because I had a bunch of redirects going to like my newsletter, my mastermind. Yeah. And so all those got corrupted and didn't work. And I had all the social stuff posts with thousands of those out there with links and everything. And they just came through for me, man. And I love those guys. They're tremendous.
Amazing. Well, you can do it too. You can get your own site managed. Just go to sign up at eversite.com/BB. Eversite.com/BB. And yeah, that's awesome. Our thanks to Eversite for sponsoring this episode. I was thinking, we talked about patience last week, and I said, you act like you need patience more than you need money, even when that's not true. It's a good attitude to have. And I was thinking more about that. And I started to think about this concept that patience is a currency. You can use this to get ahead. We talk about you take money and you invest it, and that allows you to grow your business. You take time and you invest that time as a currency, right? Patience, I think similar to time, but differently, because I can wait for somebody for a long time and be impatient about it, or I can wait for somebody for a long time and be patient with them and kind and like help them through. And those are the kinds of relationships, when you build those and they're based on patience, they start to be based on trust. Those are the things that last a really long time. And as impatient a person as I am, and yes, I am extremely impatient.
Not me, Dave. Not me at all.
No, it's just, I'm the only one. I understand, and I've been able to carve out a career for myself in a lot of ways that's based on patience. And it's just like, okay, I as frustrating as this would be, if I wasn't wanting to, earn this group of business or whatever, it's like, I'll wait it out, man. There's so many things where, you ask somebody and it's like, oh, they're not ready yet. Okay, I'll just wait until you're ready. And that alone is the key. And then be following up and doing all the things. But just when somebody says no, it's like you were saying before. In fact, very much related to what you were saying before about, finally getting your boxes on DHL trucks. You were patient about that.
Yeah, sure.
And that currency got you a ton. That investment it paid off, even though it took years. It was that patience.
And I think the another way to, or a different way to look at this too is I was reading today and somebody was asking like, how long does it really take to get a business off the ground? And I was like, well, it's definitely years. I mean, if you think it's going to happen in months, you're going to be sorely disappointed. And it's a similar thing. It's that patience, it pays off and understanding that, okay, the first year or two are going to be a grind.
Yes.
It's going to be difficult, but I'm going to be patient and I'm going to track things. And as you move in a certain direction, you're going to look at the data and make adjustments, but you're still going to be patient. You're not going to quit because things didn't happen quite as fast as you thought they were. I'm all for speed, and we talk about it all the time. Let's move quick. Let's take action. Let's get this stuff done. But you also need to, be patient for the outcome.
Yes.
Otherwise, you'll never achieve anything great.
Yeah.
If you don't focus, and I think it was like 2 years before we did during this podcast, before we got our first sponsor, that we were like worthy of, hey, you got enough traffic, you guys know what you're doing, we'll invest and do some tests and see if it works. So and I think you told me one time the average podcast doesn't make it past 10 episodes. Right?
No, double digits is rare company. Yeah.
Yeah. So that patience and, it's also kind of giving yourself that built-in outlook that
it's true.
Oh, I'm going to be, okay, this is going to be the next couple of years. Don't think that, okay, all I have to do is for 3 months, 6 months, and then I'll have enough money and I can live.
No.
What is your, not a plan B, because I'm not a huge fan of those, but what is how will you live? And how will you manage your life, basically, while you're building this thing? And let's face it, while you're suffering through,
and when I came,
times.
When I was thinking of this, I was thinking of it more in terms of customer service or sales, right? Dealing with not just patience with yourself, because I'm very impatient with myself.
I am too.
And that's not
that's
a
why
good
I
thing.
say this is a different way of looking at it, but it's still
it's the same.
It's the same. It is a currency.
Yes.
That you are building it. Okay, I know it's going to do this. I'm committing. Doesn't mean you can't do other things along the way.
Of course not.
But understand that you really have to commit and you have to be patient while you build these little things to see if it's going to work.
For sure.
And to master it, right? There's that 10,000 hours concept, right? Where if you do something 10,000 hours, that's the only way you're going to master it. But it's the same kind of thing.
It doesn't change. Yeah.
No, but it's true.
But don't forget about it with your customers, because especially like I said, sales or anything like that, where you're just waiting for the right time for someone to match for their needs to match your offerings, right?
Yeah.
And in those moments, that's where the magic is. And if you've been the one that's just there, not pushy, but you're just there, and we'll make this happen. It's fine. It's fine. I had somebody that was a sponsor that I met with them in May of 2024 and kept up on them, and it was fine. They were like, "Oh yeah, we're going to do something right away." No, nothing has happened yet. Finally, this past May, they're like, "We really need to talk," and I'm like, "Oh yes, I don't disagree." But I didn't tell him, I've been waiting on you a year. No. Right. It's like, okay, great. Your timing, like I've kept you up to date. I've kept you informed. And now it turns out you're ready to work with us. Amazing. I'm not upset about this. I mean, do I sometimes make a snarky comment, maybe to my wife after hours or something like, it took them long enough.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But, I don't say it to the staff. I don't, it's always just, Yep. It's just like, of course, this is how success is built.
Yep.
And patience is one of your best currencies.
Yeah. Yep. Isn't there like some advertising saying something that people need to see your name and this thing like 12 times and
it's true.
All that kind of stuff. So I do think there's a lot to it. And that comment you made about not talking in a negative manner about your clients with your team, We need to do a whole episode on that.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a lot to dig in there. So
there's a lot. Well, the sad part though is that this episode is almost over, Shannon.
Wow,
it
time
happens.
Flies, man.
I guess we got to do one on Friday. I guess
Let's
that's
do it.
I guess so. Yeah. I guess
our favorite. Come back for Friday Eye.
Oh yeah, good stuff coming up on Friday Eye this week. Thanks for hanging out with us, folks. Thanks for everything. We've got some of your reviews to read. Make sure you review us, businessbrain.show/review. We would love to hear from you. That is part of the fuel that keeps us going. And we are patient for it, but we're getting impatient. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you on Friday.
See ya.